Good day, YouTube! I'm so excited to share this with you. This is my interview with the principal. And we are sharing tips on how to be hired or how to get teaching job. I hope you all stay tuned and watch until the end. But before anything else, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that notification bell so you'll be notified every time I have a new video. Hello everyone, this is your Teacher Desiree Vlogs. Wrong. Hello everyone, this is Teacher Desiree and welcome to our new, what's new?
Vlogs.
New vlog for tonight. I will be interviewing our principal.
Mr. Matt.
And my son keeps on talking. And Mr. Matt is here.
Hi,
Hello, hello.
how are you?
I'm good. Good evening, Mr. Matthew Connell.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you too.
Okay. And this is awkward. I'm not. And it's for the sake of my YouTube channel. So thank you so much for being accommodating.
You're welcome.
So I would be interviewing the principal. Isn't that great? Okay, since our time is not that much, so let's start with the first question. So the first part of our interview is how to be hired by a principal with high standards. And that's you.
Thank you very much. So I guess to start off with, I think that if you've got high standards for yourself, then that's easily transferable to anyone who's going to want to employ you. So I've been giving some thought to this question, and I've got a few different points maybe that I would make. I guess first and foremost, most definitely, you've got to be able to describe what makes a good lesson. And in any interview, you know, this is the sort of thing that you should rehearse beforehand. So going from the very start of the lesson until the very end, and with all the stages in between. This is really important for a principal to understand what your take on a good lesson is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is the CV giving you some hint, or you don't care about what's written on the CV?
Look, to be honest, most CVs are fairly standard these days. So there's not a lot that really jumps out from a CV. You know, for me personally, I tend to ignore CVs that have too many pages or that include loads of certifications and listing hundreds of skills, because it's just too much. You know, an effective CV for me should be no more than 2 pages maximum.
Do you ask the question? Do you ask not the question? Do you ask the one you interview describe himself or tell me about yourself?
Yeah, I mean,
because that's
look,
the usual. I don't know if I was not interviewed by you, so I don't know how you do interview.
Yeah.
So do you ask that question?
For me, I don't usually do that. What you know, for me, if I'm really interested in an applicant, I will always do my research first. So I will do an internet research. Maybe I'll contact one of the referees first and get their take. You can find out a lot about someone by doing a Google search these days. So I don't usually go for describe yourself. It's a bit of a time waster in an interview. So I wouldn't, recommend to teachers to spend a lot of time preparing and rehearsing a description of who they are.
That's good. So next time, if I will have an interview with you in the future, so I will not prepare that anymore.
Yeah, that's right. I need to prepare that.
Okay. That's very clear. So you are into how they would be teaching. You don't care about the paper that they give you. It's the practical side.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So for me, it's all about, in the interview, just asking some open questions and seeing how the interviewee can respond to them. So questions like what a good lesson looks like. I'd also want to know about some of the strengths in the classroom from the applicant as well. I would expect to be seeing or to get a picture of them as a teacher with what sort of strategies they use. So if you're really big on language, for example, I would expect for you to tell me some of the strategies you use and be able to give me some concrete examples of how they work.
Mm-hmm. So you're not into I'm judging already. Are you into first impression? Are you into first impression?
To some extent. Do you mean more like physical appearance?
On how they answer your questions.
I think that for me personally, I would prefer it if the person was, I mean, and I know this is a tricky one, was a little more relaxed, could speak freely. I can't really get a gauge of the person if they are, super uptight and answering everything very short.
Mm-hmm.
You asked before about getting that impression from people, and I can usually do it by just the way that they carry themselves. If they've got a smile, if they're friendly, if they talk in a kind of upbeat tone, that usually tells me a lot about the person.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I can say that you are into those people who are really bubbly and can express themselves well.
Sure. Within reason, of course.
But there are applicants who are not very good at interviews, just like me. Personally, I'm not really good at interviews.
Sure.
How would you give them a chance?
That's a really good question because, for several years, I felt the same about myself, that I wasn't particularly good at interviews. I think, honestly, your CV is going back to your point earlier, the CV is the first step. If you've got a clear CV, you've listed some of your key competencies in your experience within the roles that you've done, that already will set the impression and the tone, So for those people who are feeling a little less confident in themselves and that they don't feel that they speak or interview well, the CV is the first point. The next point would be to rehearse. Think of, study your CV really well and think, okay, quite possibly I'm going to be asked about this, and this. So have a member of your family or a friend ask you questions about those. And, build up your confidence in that way, because if you go into an interview cold and you already don't feel that confident, well, then it's just going to go downhill from the very beginning. So practice lots.
Yeah, what I did when I had my interviews before, I look at myself in the mirror and I talk and I pretend I'm the interviewee, then the other persona would be the interviewer. So I ask the question and I answer
Yeah.
the question myself. The I
Sure.
think it helps.
Sure.
It would help, like just releasing the tension. If ever you felt
Of
that
course.
that the person you're interviewing is really tensed and stressed, how would you
Yeah.
change the tone?
How would I change the tone for them?
Yeah,
I
I
would
know you would
probably
feel
have.
that. Yeah, even the
Yeah, I
length
would.
of time
Yeah.
that you have
Yeah.
been discussing, and still he or she is tense. So
Yeah.
how would you help?
Okay. So what? I mean, by the impression I'd got from the person already, I would probably, try to make something a little more light by throwing in a joke or making a funny comment about something just to relax that tension a bit. Or if I felt that they were kind of stuck on a particular point, or that, and that was what was causing the tension, I would move on. I would thank them, and then I would move on to the next question or to the next point. Because often, when I've been interviewing, I've found that it is that reason, that they've got something that's been tricky, and they're trying to work through it in their brain, but ultimately it's kind of making them build in their stress level. So I would kind of call it quits on that particular question, or rephrase it,
Mm-hmm.
or offer them a moment to think about it. It's really important also as the interviewee that you can ask. You can say, oh, can you just give me a moment to think about that? And there's nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, it shows the person who's interviewing you that you're careful and deliberate in your thinking, rather than just rushing straight into an answer that you might kick yourself later on for responding with.
Oh, okay. That's a lot of tips for everybody to follow and try. I'm going to cut this for our next session. Thank you so much, Mr. Matt. I'll see you in a bit.
Okay. No worries.